Dear students, we will talk about technology of digital library today, and in this context we will refer frequently to a case study of National Digital Library of India. So, in this module our objective is to understand the issues of a digital library and to appreciate the technology handles that are typically used to solve them. So, first let us look at the different issues that typically face a digital library, and we will look at the user side of the issues. That is, a digital library has variety of users, and in the context of a country like ours of India, we have wide geographic expanse, we have huge number of students, we have severe lack of teachers, large population, severe varied language expanse and so on. And on the other side, that is, if you look at building up the digital library on the provider side, we already have a very rich wealth of digital content that has been created by different institutions, government projects and so on, and they exist in variety of forms of not only books and periodicals, but also of videos of different solution material, question papers, simulations and so on. Yet, we have a lot of difficulty in terms of locating these contents easily. There is no single window through which the content can be accessed. There is you will first need to know where to find the content. Different sites use different kind of technology. So, it is difficult for a common user to keep on learning how to access those contents. Search, typically like the Google kind of search, is based on keyword mechanisms. They are not suitable or aware of the user who is actually doing the search. So, it is not user aware or user experience is not taken into the search and so on. There is lack of support in terms of vernacular language, there is low integration between content and the learning systems and so on. So, there are several issues that exist on the provider side. So, on the user side there is a deep need, and on the provider side, even though there is a good amount of content, there is not enough in terms of the technological solution of the library. So, based on this, a digital library can be conceived to have a multiple layered services on which it is actually built. So, the core service or the core component of a digital library certainly is the repository, digital repository part, which has to provide the authoring service and the acquisition service, that is creating the content and borrowing the content. Certainly, this is something which is common with the traditional library also. But on top of this, it will have to provide the dissemination service to actually become a library. Just if I just have the content in an archive, it is not a library. A library has to have dissemination service, that it should support the features to help good search of content as well as the ability to access the content. This will make a digital library. And then we can think that if we are building a digital library in a big way at a national level, as the case is of National Digital Library, then on top of a regular digital library, you will look for putting a whole lot of varied services like learning services. It should be possible to learn, have learning content, have experience based learning, that is, as I was saying, that the library should track the experience of the user and provide content based on that experience. Then personalization service, that is based on the user, the search mechanism itself could vary. Multilingual content with localization, that is we are a country having so many different languages in which the education is imparted. So, multilingual support should be there, and finally, there should be lot of open services, so that further services can be built up. So, this is the basic scope, this is the basic service architecture on which a digital library at a national level could be built up. So, if we look into the basic use model of such a library, you will see there are 4 major components: content access, content contribution, web content harvesting and learning management system. So, these are the 4 main services in the flavors that we have discussed already in the service architecture that a digital library will have to provide. So, in the following slides, I have given a basic outline of what is the typical workflow of these use cases. I will not go through them in detail, I will just talk about one, rest you can refer to in future. For example, if it is to do a content access, then the user is in front of the front end server, and from the front end server the user puts a search, navigation, search or browse request, and based on that the content is accessed from the indexed database, and if the content happens to be a video, then it is served through a video streaming process. So, in this way a digital library will need to define different workflows for like the content use, they will have to define the workflows for content contribution as to when somebody is creating content and adding to the library. Certainly, then not only the content will have to be added, but along with that the metadata for the content will have to be added. Metadata I am sure you all are familiar with, that content has a set of information which describes the content in the generic form as well as in terms of its use. So, the metadata will have to be provided, curated. In terms of the use case of web content harvesting, that is where you are not creating a new content, but you are using the content from some other source, some other digital repository or some web crawling site. You take the content, you will follow this workflow, and finally, the content could be integrated into a learning management system. So, these are the basic use cases that a digital library would like to support. And if we try to do that in terms of a basic system architecture, now I earlier talked about the service architecture, the services and use models that it will support. If we look at the system architecture, then it will look something like this, where on top if we look at, these are the different servers that will support the repository, actual repository of the data, and these are the different server clusters which will provide different parts of the services, like this will manage the index part, so that the content can be searched and browsed. This will manage the content actually bringing it from the store. This will manage the learning system, so that the content can be related to learning, and separate streaming servers will stream that. So, this could be a very typical architecture of a digital library, which can support the services that we have talked of earlier. So, in terms of building this up, so this was just an overall at a top level, this was the overview of what the digital library will have. So, let me in the next 2 sections walk you through the basic technology requirements or technology challenges of achieving the task beyond the traditional information technology challenges. So, certainly this will require a whole lot of computer science, information technology skills which the required people will do, but beyond that there are problems that we need to really specifically address. First is about metadata engineering. So, that is the first target that will have to be addressed with the newer technology. Is a content, as you can see, is useful as the accuracy and richness of the metadata that it carries. If I have a content, maybe a very good writing, but if it does not have the metadata describing not only its author, publisher and so on, the basic generic stuff, but also what is the subject, what is the basic level of the document, how it could be used in the learning process, who are the typical users for which this will be useful, what is the pedagogic objective that this content will satisfy and so on. Unless we can specify all those through the metadata, certainly the content will not be picked up through proper search. The second aspect that in terms of technology I will just briefly touch upon is user interface, because Since the library becomes digital, the only way the user interacts with the library is the user interface, whether it is a GUI based graphical user interface, it is a mobile based interface, it could be a voice mixed interface and so on. And in the user interface, there are primarily three aspects to focus on. One is experience tracking, as to how you find the interface, how do you find out how experience the user is getting, making it multilingual and personalizing it further. So, we will just get started first with the metadata engineering. So, basic issue is how do we get metadata, how do we ingest metadata for contents, and certainly there are three possibilities. One is metadata annotation. You could manually do that. Somebody knowing the domain could sit down with the content and fill in the metadata. Is a possible thing, but certainly is extremely slow, and in terms of the scale of a digital library will be almost impractical. The second could be that you are borrowing the content from some other web source or some other digital repository. So, you can take the metadata that the repository has and translate it in your library system that you are building up. Why is the translation required? Because different sources that you are taking the content from will have metadata according to their choice of standard, their choice of fields and so on, but certainly at the digital library level we will need to follow an uniform metadata standard, uniform metadata set of fields. So, this will involve translation in the process. And finally, the third could be the metadata extraction, by which I mean automated extraction of metadata, that is whatever content you have, you analyze that through different recent advanced techniques of machine learning, natural language processing and so on, and try to infer the metadata from the content directly. So, this is a brief manual automation workflow. I will not go through the details here, that is not very critical. What is important is the fact that starting from logging into a system interface, the user or the creator of the metadata in this case will have to go through several stages, create the metadata, get it reviewed, do a self review, and finally, once all these reviews are passed, then you submit and get it created. The purpose is to show that there is a whole lot of steps and it would be an extremely slow process. If we do an automated crawling, we say crawling is meant to download different information from a website using another program. So, we say that is web crawling. So, if we do crawling, then it primarily starts with two different types of flow. One is with if the site supports service endpoints, or other is if the support does not if the portal does not support service endpoint. What does this mean? In the first case, it means that the portal expects that you will download regularly using a program, you will crawl it regularly. So, it provides some support for doing that internally, otherwise it does not provide that support. So, you will have to create that internally, and you can have a easily automated process to crawl the content from the website. Now, in terms of the metadata translation, because you have crawled it, then you will have to translate that, as I explained, because the other site has a different kind of metadata format, and our digital library will have a different kind of format. So, a translation is required where you have harvested, take the backup of the harvested data, and then you put a mapping, one-to-one mapping of that particular, for that particular source, how the metadata is mapped. So, just to give you an example, you may be just taking PDF book contents and taking from a source where the writer of the book is called a creator, and in your system the writer of the book may be called an author. So, in this mapping you will have to say that the creator in that site is author in our digital library, and on the fly translate them and create the appropriate metadata. So, this is kind of how it will look like. You have different repositories, these are written as IDRs, institutional digital repositories. They are harvested through the different harvesting crawling mechanism, the metadata is translated, and then IDR specific metadata will be created. This could happen based on multiple formats also, simple comma separated value, CSV format to JSON, XML, and in different forms they could be extracted by the digital library and put in the metadata. Similar things will happen in terms of web crawling. You could crawl using different crawling engines, because different portals will show the data with different format, different styles. So, you need different crawler engines for that, and then you again go through that same translation and metadata generation process. There will be several issues that will come up in translation, which the digital library has to address. For example, the subject classification, when the subject classification is standardized through multiple different standards. So, the content that you get may be classified according to one standard, and your digital library may be following a different standard and so on. So, mapping terminology may be different. So, there are separate different translation issues which will also need to be addressed. Now, in the final third kind of flow for metadata is the automatic metadata extraction, where we take a document and write an extractor for that. That is a program which will programmatically open that document and go through the structure to find out first. For example, if you have given a PDF file, the first thing you would like to find out to decide on the metadata is what kind of document it is. Is it a it is an article, it is a white paper, or it is a book, or it is a report. So, by looking into different features of the document, its content structure, its first couple of pages, its back pages, indexing and so on, you can figure out and easily classify what kind of document it is. And once you have been able to classify, you know how that document, for example, a book has a typical way of putting in, maybe that varies, but more grossly typical way of putting in, where you put the author name, where you put the title, where you put the publisher and so on, and using all that information and building in what we say the little bit of learning based on the machines or artificial intelligence, it is possible to extract a whole lot of metadata which are a part of the content. Of course, all metadata you will not be able to get. For example, in this process you cannot extract the metadata saying that whether this particular PDF say book is an elementary level book in that field, or it is a advanced level book in that field. You cannot probably be able to say this, but most of the common metadata can be extracted in an automated manner. So, that is a typical extraction flow. You extract, then certainly you will have to curate, make sure that you can minimize on the error, and then put it in the repository format and store it in the database. So, for this there are several tools that are required, and I was making a reference to the National Digital Library of India project at IIT Kharagpur. So, these are all research level advances. So, these tools are not yet publicly available. So, this project has created a number of tools for automatic metadata extraction, syntactic metadata extraction, table of content extractor, which can just take out the table of content and automatically understanding that what is table of content, then infer some of the learning metadata, put a total chain, and in that way you can get a lot of help in terms of the metadata creation and curation, which is a critical part of the digital library. Moving to the next part is experience tracking and user interface. So, there are several user interface technologies which are involved. The foremost one that I would like to draw your attention to is what is known as experience tracking. Let me define the experience tracking problem. The experience tracking says that, of course, if we have to use the metadata to provide the most appropriate content for an user. So, it is important that you know that what the user is, rather which level the user is, what is its interest area, what is the specialization, whether he is studying in a course and at which level he is studying and so on. The more of that you can know, it is always easier to use the metadata and give that same type of content. So, if the user is looking for magnetism and you know that the user is a 8th standard student, you can give NCERT book as a result. But if the user is looking for magnetism and you know that the user is a postgraduate student, you will probably give the recent publications, the papers in magnetism in different physics and other technical journals. So, it is very important to know and track the experience of the user. Now, certainly one way the user can specify that this is who I am, this is what I am looking for and so on. In many places user will not take the initiative to do that, or may not actually know how to do that. So, even in those cases we can track the experience of the user by actually tracking his or her behavior in terms of searching the digital library, using the digital library over a period of time. So, what is done is the different clicks done by the user on the different pages, the time spent on scanning different documents, watching different videos and so on are tracked from those web pages, and that is where we the new different new systems are coming up. There is a international standard in terms of tin can, and those using those tin can APIs, the learning management system or the repository system can track the learning management activities, search activities, and put them into what is called an LRS, that is learning record store, which basically tracks as to this is the user and this is the learning item that the user has done. This is the particular site that the user has tracked. This is the particular video the user has seen 5 minutes of that particular video out of the total 30 minutes and so on. Period of time, as the user keeps on using the digital library, you get a bigger and bigger repository of learning components that the user is creating for herself. And then this could be scanned and this could be processed in different ways using variety of analytics and visualization tools to create the information about the user's model, and it is as such possible to at least the gross classification of experience and so on can be very easily created. So, that is one major part of technology that the digital libraries needs to use. Besides that, in terms of IT technology, it will use API endpoints. So, the content management system will have APIs, there will be indexing APIs for the search and browse, there will be LMS APIs for the learning management system and so on. In terms of the interface, the actual physical interface, the web interface will be the major application that will use these APIs. So, there will be separate different extended search features like facet based search, result and refinement, tag, comment on a content, target group specific interface, that is interface which is suitable for a school child is not very suitable for a postgraduate student and so on. So, those can be tuned, and lot of the National Digital Library specific features, I am just making a reference to the case study, which for example, could be multilingual enablement, so that you can do multilingual query, you can personalize based on your choice of the language, you can do cross lingual search and so on and so forth. So, user interface would be a major factor. So, to summarize in this module, I have talked about and analyzed the issues in a digital library. What are the main issues besides the generic issues of repository and basic search and all that, I did not talk about those, but tried to identify the issues that exist today, and particularly if you are trying to build up a digital library at a large national level. Explain the architecture and the use model of the digital library, and explored various approaches to metadata engineering, which is key, and finally discuss the issues in the user interface and the personalization of services. So, using these with the knowledge of these technologies, you could actually explore further and look into the different technology in depth in terms of what is whatever is your preference, interest, and whatever is your is better in terms of your understanding. And with reference to the case study, I will point you to the fact that the National Digital Library of India is hosted, and you could it actually implements quite a bit of these technologies that I have talked of here. So, you could certainly go over that, see through you as a user, and get an experience in terms of what these technologies can achieve, at least partly. It obviously all of these do not exist there, and some of them are back end technologies like metadata engineering, but you could take an experience and learn from the experience of the NDL project, and I am sure with that you will be able to build more smart digital libraries in future. Thank you.